Welcome to The Pillars. I'm Sergeant Ackerberg here with Dr. Walker and Chaplain Bridgham. Today we have the honor of interviewing Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Kaleth O. Wright. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Whew. We are so excited and honored to have you. I know our entire wing is ready to hear this podcast.
All right, and I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you all. And
so we want to start with a softball question. We figured it'd be fun, something, because people want to find leaders they can model after. So the softball question to start with, Chief, is what did you have for breakfast today?
Oh, wow. So today for breakfast, I had a little bit of coffee, straight black, no cream or sugar, and a banana.
Okay.
That is exactly what I have. That's amazing.
Any reason why you choose that?
Well, I'm not a big breakfast eater, so I don't eat meat, I don't eat eggs, so typically I have coffee and either some fruit or a blueberry Bavita cookie, which is my favorite little snack.
Okay. Very cool. So what does the first hour of your morning usually look like?
So first hour of my morning, I normally up at 05, and after I let my dogs out, I do a little bit of prayer, a little bit of meditating, and then I plan out my day. So I have one of those full focus planners, very detailed, kind of planning book thingamajig, whatever you call it. And so I kind of figure out, hey, what are the 3 most important things I need to get done during the day? So and I also typically write in there 3 things that I'm thankful for today. So a little bit of gratitude that really helps get my mind in the right place. And then right about 0600, I'm off to the gym, get a great workout in. So I jump rope these days. That's my preferred
No kidding.
workout. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
Do you go for time or for speed?
for speed? So
Okay.
I do a little bit of kind of hit training. So mix in
Okay.
some strength exercises and a little bit of speed with the jump rope.
Outstanding. Chief, I love that you mentioned that you meditate in the morning and that you know the 3 things that you're thankful for, because those are things that we've actually talked about on our team in previous podcasts, just how it helps you jumpstart your day, clear your mind, create a focus for your day so that you can be successful. And I'm wondering, you mentioned that you try to figure out what your goals for the day are going to be, 3 things you want to accomplish. Would you mind sharing with us what those were today?
So for today, on a day like today, it's relatively easy because as part of the figuring out my goals for the day, I review my calendar and I figure out the things that I have to do today. So this podcast was one of them. Having AMA Reddit this afternoon was the second goal, and my third goal was centered around fitness. I wanted to make sure I got a good workout in this morning because I missed yesterday.
Okay. Outstanding.
What happens on a day that you miss maybe going to the gym?
I typically feel a little bit sluggish. I don't feel as energized, and I seem to lose a little bit of steam in the afternoon. So it doesn't really affect me, first thing in the morning. I'm typically busy, meetings and whatnot, but I think I can feel it mostly in the afternoons when I start to run out of steam if I don't get a good workout in.
Okay.
First thing in the morning.
That's awesome, because that's definitely one of our wing things. We try to encourage the fitness and just how when you don't have fitness built into your routine, the effects that it can have, increase on caffeine or poor choices you make later for nutrition.
Yeah.
So we also opened our questions up to our wing to really get an idea of what is our airmen wanting to ask you.
Okay.
So one of the questions we got were, we aren't machines, we slip up from time to time. How has failure shaped you into the leader you have become?
Oh, wow. So, I started off failing in the Air Force. And so I came in, was pretty undisciplined. I was, like most 18, 19-year-olds. I just wanted to come in and hang out and drink and party and have a good time and really no goals, no direction or anything like that. So I used to get in a lot of trouble when I was a young airman. And I had a really good supervisor at the time. He's really like my father today.
Okay.
And became like my father back then and stayed that way. And he helped me work through a lot of the challenges that I had. Tons of letters of reprimand, letters of counseling, letters of admonishment. I didn't even know what that was back then. And one Article 15 went out during my first deployment. And I think all of that was a huge lesson for me that helped, get me back on track. I'll tell you, one of the most recent failures I had was when I was a senior master sergeant. I worked for a chief that I didn't particularly care for. And so after providing her with some choice words that I dare not repeat on your podcast, I got in some trouble. So I got a bad performance report and subsequently got a really bad promotion board score. And so I really at that point I thought my career was over. And,
No kidding.
And I had a young senior airman. I was a senior master sergeant, young senior airman walk into my office and called me a hypocrite. And
Wow.
because basically he said, "Hey, what happened when I got this bad report and I got myself in this trouble? I basically quit. So I went to TAPS and I had 17 years in. I don't know where I thought I was going, but I was in TAPS.
Okay.
And I think he noticed it, and a lot of other airmen that worked for me noticed it. So he walked in and said, "Hey, Sarge, I think you're a hypocrite. You always tell us to hold your head up, see it through, work out your problems, work out your challenges, and now you're going through something and you're quitting on us."
So hearing that senior airman say that to you, give you some truth, how did you respond to that?
I kicked him out of my office.
Oh man.
I really respected his ability to be frank and his ability to be bold with me. But I did kick him out of my office. But I went home that night and I realized, man, he was exactly right. And he helped me really do a 180. So I got back on track and realized that I was the cause of many of my problems. And that I needed that time to grow. So it ended up being about a 3-year span before I got promoted. And, of course, during the 3 years, I wasn't like, wow, this is the greatest failure ever. But afterwards, I looked back and I thought, yeah, I needed that. I needed that time to grow. And very, very thankful for that young man.
That's outstanding.
So that was some powerful feedback
Yeah.
that he handed you. So another question that we got is, if you could go back and give advice to A1C Wright, what advice would you give him?
Ooh, so if I could give advice to my younger self, I would say focus. Dream big and focus. So it turned out, I turned out okay being in this role, but it's not something that I strive for when I was younger, and I really did lack focus. There's a part of me that says, hey, you should always live with no regrets. But again, if I could go back, I wish I'd have been more focused as a young man and thought about some of the important things that I've come to realize today. The importance of character, having a positive attitude, being disciplined, practicing excellence. Obviously one of our core values. And I was a basketball player, so I kind of understood teamwork a little bit, but not from a military standpoint. So those are some of the things that I was missing, and I would say collectively, I wish I was more focused as a young man.
So how does a young airman start to nurture and develop those traits?
So I would say the first thing is, and this is not it's not that difficult, but it's not as easy, I think, for any of us, is understanding your purpose. So that's really what I was lacking is, I didn't. I wasn't quite lost in the wilderness, but I didn't realize, why I was here and why I served and whatnot. So I think if a young person can really hone in on their purpose in life, not just in the military, I think they can begin to understand themselves and build some of those characteristics that ultimately lead to success. And having a great mentor is always helpful. Somebody that helps keep you on track.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned some things you do for personal resilience. So every day you have these disciplines that are spiritual, physical, etc. But we know last year you traveled a lot. You were in the office about 55 days approximately last year, give or take.
Yes,
so
sir.
you were out a lot. And we travel a lot for our 15 sites. So we understand that, and we know travel sounds really cool until you do it all the time. But the question we have isn't just around resilience, but with your family. How do you maintain your family relationships with all of that travel?
All right, so my wife actually travels with me about 50, maybe 60% of the time. So that's extremely helpful.
Great.
now when we travel together, she typically has her own agenda, and she goes and takes care of spouses and families, and then I go take care of the military stuff, and then we normally meet sometimes for lunch, and then mostly for dinner. So that's really, really helpful when it comes to travel. There are times when she opts out and decides to stay home. So that's pretty helpful. All of our children are grown and out of the house. So we just have 2 dogs and my parents live nearby, and they take care of the little kids.
That's wonderful. So, Chief, what purchase of $100 that you've made recently has impacted your life the most?
Of $100, a purchase of
$100
or less.
Yeah.
I would say the book The Go-Giver. So it was recommended to me by a colleague, and once I read it, I was just fascinated by these 5 laws or principles of stratospheric success. Really by the first one, which is the law of value, which kind of speaks to, your real worth is determined by how much you add value to other people. And it's something that I, like, ever since I read it, I think about just on a regular basis, always trying to figure out. And I've always kind of known that in a sense, but it just really reiterated to me the importance of adding value and giving to others and giving of yourself, and the last law in this particular book is the law of receptivity. And so if you're going to give, you have to be open to receiving as well, because many times it'll come back to you. And sometimes in our attempts to be humble, we say no.
You have to take the praise, the compliments,
Right.
what people give you back. Yeah. So how's that played out in your day-to-day life?
It's played out in my day-to-day life. So one, I recommended and bought a copy of the book for each one of my teammates.
Oh, great.
That we work with, and we kind of talk through some of the scenarios regularly, some of the parts of the book. And so I think it's been extremely helpful from a team building standpoint. And then, just like I said, every single day, I think about, sometimes I think about when I'm grabbing a cup of coffee, then I make it a point to purchase a cup for the person behind me. If I have something, I've recently discovered, and it got me in a little bit of trouble actually, Poshmark. It's you know what that is?
What's that?
It's an app where it's kind of like a newer version of eBay.
Okay.
Where people sell stuff, and I'm a big golfer, so I just bought a ton of golf stuff on it one time. But I thought about, hey, I got all this extra stuff, golf stuff and clothes and things. Maybe I should put them on Poshmark and make a couple of dollars. And I said, no, I think I'll just take them to the airman's attic and make sure some airmen have the opportunity to have some nice stuff.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. Kind of paying it forward.
Yeah,
Pay it forward, yeah.
Absolutely.
So one of our favorite interview questions that we try to ask is, if you could have a giant billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically or just any message you could put out to the world, what would be on your billboard?
Attitude reflects leadership. So, obviously not mine, but my favorite movie, Remember the Titans. I think I must have watched this movie in the year 1999, maybe 2000. But it stuck with me ever since. That same scene of Julius and Bertier at the water cooler having their little squabble, and him mentioning this, hey, attitude reflects leadership. And so I've always thought about it. I've always preached it. I've always thought about it in terms of how I conduct myself, that my organization, the environment that I lead will go as I go. If I'm positive, if I'm motivated, if I'm encouraging, then that's how the folks that are around me and work for me will be. And so I just think that's extremely important for all of us to understand. You don't have to be the Chief Master in the Air Force or have any significant role. You can be a young first-term airman. We're all leaders in our own right. It's not, leadership is not really determined by position. And so you can make a huge difference just by the way you carry yourself and the way you see life.
Yeah, that's so true with energy.
Yeah.
Like when you have that positive energy, people are just like drawn to you. And when you maybe having a bad day, it like repulses. Can push people.
So we have just a couple more questions for
Sure.
you. So books. So you talked about The Go-Giver. It's a great book. And oftentimes airmen are out there looking, they've done their PME and they're just looking for something else to learn for leadership. They want to move in some positive direction. So they like to hear what books you've read. So if you had to say maybe your favorite 3 books that you have, what are they?
Okay, pound for pound, absolutely my favorite book is The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho. So I love that book. I love the story. I love the theme that once you discover you're a personal legend, the entire universe conspires to help you achieve it. So that's number one book I like to recommend. From a leadership perspective, I also really like Colin Powell's It Worked for Me in Life and Leadership. So lots of really great lessons. And I think you can open it up anywhere. It's not written sequentially, so you can open up any chapter and learn just a quick lesson about how he sometimes led on the battlefield, how he led as the Secretary of State, as a politician, and whatnot. And then I also really like John Maxwell's The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And so I think for folks who are maybe just starting their leadership journey, is really good for just gaining a basic understanding of these various laws of leadership. And I kind of refer to them sometimes during speeches and presentations. So
That's awesome.
all 3 of those are really good books.
I'll say it because the chaplain won't, but The Alchemist is one of his favorite books.
It is.
I overreacted in front of Chief yesterday.
He
with
did.
it.
He
In
geeked out.
16 years of asking this question, every visit I go to units and ask, what are your favorite books, just to create an awkward question. And as a chaplain, I have to make things awkward as much as possible and walking into sections and interrupt people to encourage them to raise morale. But that said, I've asked, I've never gotten that answer, but it is my personal favorite book. So thank you for making my day.
I give a lot of them away, and now people actually start giving them to me. So I go places
great.
and folks will give me a book and have a little, a little note written in it. And, so yeah,
That's
it's good.
awesome.
All right. Well, now we know that you like to receive books too, so
do.
keep that in mind.
Right.
Dude.
Well, Chief, we like to help our folks get to know their leaders and get to know them on more of a personal level, because sometimes we don't get a chance, these opportunities to interact with our leaders, especially now the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. That's a rare occasion. So we like to know, what is an interest or a belief that you have that's kind of quirky or weird?
I'm a pretty standard guy, so I love to play golf. I'm a poet. I used to write do open mic poetry some years ago.
You don't have anything that you're prepared to give us
I
now,
don't have
do you?
anything I'm
Go
prepared to
ahead,
give you. No. I'm very interested. Just this past weekend, I almost purchased an electric guitar. I don't know how to play,
Really?
but I love jazz and blues music. And when I hear the electric guitar, I mean, it's something just moves me. So I drove to a music store on Friday, and man, I almost bought it. And I thought to myself, man, my wife would kill me if I was not buying it, because it was relatively inexpensive, but the noise of trying to learn how to play electric guitar.
My brother plays, so I know that, what it's like to learn.
That's great.
But otherwise, I'm a pescatarian, so
Okay.
I only eat fish these days. So my wife and I have been doing that for about almost 2 years now. And another thing that, along with the working out, man, I feel 10 times better. So was
Fantastic.
able to get rid of some long-standing health issues, nothing too serious, but some health and some skin issues, lost some weight, and was
Great.
able to get off the 5-hour energy
Yeah,
drinks.
that cycle.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So what you're saying is eating healthier helps you be less sluggish
It absolutely
in the
does.
afternoons, and working out in the mornings helps with
Yeah.
that too.
So I tell you, it's a combination of fitness and nutrition and sleep. I still struggle with sleep. I just have never, since the time I was a young guy, I've always been just a late night person. I kind of get more done late at night, and I have trouble going to bed early. I just wake up early. So if I go to bed at 9 o'clock, I wake up at 3 o'clock. And that's more irritating than going to bed at midnight, waking up at 5, being a little tired. but I do know that's an area that I need to work. I need to learn to go to sleep at night.
Well, Chief, we want to thank you for coming to this podcast. Is there anything you'd like to share with just the audience? Anything you'd like to say before we go?
No. So other than thank you guys, and thank all of your listeners for all of the support. I'm a huge believer in the importance of resilience, and so I really like what you guys do. I really like the idea that you use this as a means, as a vehicle to help others to improve their resilience all around. And maybe the last thing I would say is, one of the things we don't talk often enough about, we talk about fitness and mental, the mental pillar and the spiritual pillar, but that social pillar is extremely helpful for me as well. And so I try to make sure I spend time around positive people that can uplift me. I'm human like everybody else, and I go through things, but having positive people around me, like my teammates and some of my friends that I hang out with, is, I wouldn't trade it for the world, because, you always need somebody to lean on. So mind your circle and make sure you have a good group of friends that you can spend time with and share things with.
Yeah, that's awesome. That social support is such a key aspect.
Well, we want to thank you for listening to The Pillars, the podcast of the 363rd ISR Wing of the United States Air Force. I'm Chaplain Jim Bridgham.
I'm Dr. Jerry Walker.
And I'm Sergeant Ackerberg.
And I'm Chief Master Sergeant Air Force Kaleth Wright.
Until next time, if you need us, reach out to us in the global address list or on Twitter. And we just want to thank you for what you do for our nation, and have a great day.
Booyah.